Yo nekititititine yo. Yo nekititititine yo. Yo nekititititine yo. I wonder if there's anything in me that is sacred. I wonder if there's any part of me, is it my chin, or maybe my knee, or maybe my little toes that are sacred. I wonder if there were any experiences in my life that were really sacred. I wonder if there was a hurt that occurred in my life that I could call it sacred. I wonder if there were any dreams in my life that I could say, that I could paint, that I could write down, that I can etch as being sacred. I wonder if there are any photographs that I've ever seen, or any paintings that I could say that I saw something sacred. I wonder if there's anything that these eyes have ever witnessed that I could say that I saw something that is sacred. I wonder, is it my heart or is it my brain or maybe my spleen or maybe a kidney that I can say is sacred. I wonder if is it a yawn, or does it take a tear, or does it take a good laugh before it is called sacred? I wonder, was it a church? Was it a piece of ground? Was it that tree that I can say that I had seen something sacred? Was it a deep breath? Was it that one word? Was it when I touched that person that I could say, I have sensed the sacred? I wonder if there was ever a thought in my whole life that I can scoop it up like with a spoon and put it in a little jar like honey and say that I have found something, I have made something, now I have stored something that is sacred. I wonder if it was only that special walk, that one evening, that was so sacred. I wonder if it was just fixing the table, getting ready for breakfast for all the little kids to come to eat. I wonder if that is sacred. I wonder if it's a printing on paper, or is it taking a pen and jotting down some notes. A little poem that somehow came through, a little song that somehow is ringing in my ear that I can consider sacred. I wonder if it was that symphony that played those melodies that somehow raised my spirit inside. Something was raised. I wonder if that is sacred. I wonder is when I get on my knees and I put my hands together to pray, am I sacred then? And I wonder so many times, sitting in my meditation, is that a sacred space? I wonder when there are no thoughts, no feelings to distract me, is that the sacredness that I seek? Or I wonder when the moon is so far away on the other side of the earth and there's no light whatsoever but a few starlights, is that the sacred moment? And I wonder when the moon starts to rise and seeing its light, is that the most sacred time? And yet I wonder when the sun sets and the light is going away, did I live a sacred day? When I made the decision to finally help, was that the beginning of my sacred life? When I finally bowed down like grass in a wind, was my bent body sacred? The light in my head I see sometimes, is that from the sacredness within? It is a prayer, I hope. Is it a wish? Maybe. And where does the sacredness go when I am tired and bitter and bold with anger? Or is sacredness only present when I am soft and kind and a smile on my cheeks? Does sacredness play with me like the sun in the sky that never stops, that runs all the way to the west and somehow comes back? It's a sacredness like a memory that one cannot find, and somehow it appears so magically. Is sacredness luck, or is it random? Does it depend on my cheeks, the muscles, that whether it cries or whether it laughs? What attracts you, sacredness, I ask? Does sacredness appear only when I kiss? Or I speak a foul language? And where are you, sacredness, now when I am ill and sick? Want nothing. Does sacredness belong to a painting in a museum? Or does it belong to that little object, that little toy of that child that's put it in a little box to hide it for some farther future? Or is sacredness just something to think about and somehow connect with it when the feelings somehow are there? When somehow there's some act occurring in front of me that appears to be sacred, but is it? Does sacredness only belong to the ones being born and to the ones passing away? Is sacredness something to be contemplated and thought of? Or does it just appear on its own volition? Does sacredness emanate from nature itself? Or is it some divine intelligence that one cannot see? By saying and repeating 1,000 Hail Marys and 10,000 Our Fathers, 100,000 mantras, will I be sacred then? Am I sacred where I hurt inside my heart? Am I still sacred when I have revenge in my blood? And yet such a word has touched billions of people. And yet such a word somehow brings a person to some silence. And yet somehow that word has affected so many people in so many beautiful ways. One of the words that have not been distorted on this planet. The word God is so distorted and so disrupted, used by those of hate and used by those of kindness. And yet one of the few remaining ancient words that those who hate cannot find it, and kill it. And those who wish to control cannot even touch it. And yet sacred belongs to the Muslims. It belongs to the people in the bush. It belongs to the Germans. It belongs to the Catholics and the Protestants. It belongs to the Hindu. It belongs to the shamans. It belongs to those that live in the bush. It belongs to the birds and the bees. It belongs to the winds. It belongs to all the planets. It belongs to all creatures. It belongs to all events. It belongs to all watches and clocks. It belongs to all sounds, and even those that are silent. It belongs to all the various lights. It belongs to the nighttime and the daytime. It belongs to the wicked and the sane. It belongs to those who love and those who cannot. It belongs to the shadows and the laughter. It belongs to those that tear and just walk. It belongs to those that cannot move and those that are ambitious. It belongs to those that sing and those who cannot. It belongs to those who wear glasses. It belongs to those who have such few things. It belongs to the ignorant. It belongs to the geniuses. It belongs to those that live in the streets and those that live in their heads. It belongs to the taxicab drivers. It belongs to those who have lost hope. It belongs to those that are seamstress. Belongs to those that just walk. It belongs to those that cannot stand anymore. It belongs to those that are asleep. It belongs to those that forgot what to say. It belongs to those that just walk. It belongs to those that are colorblind. It belongs to those that never brush their hair. It belongs to those that look with spite. It belongs to those that just walk. Peace to your minds. Peace to your hearts. Peace. Peace. My thoughts search. Will I ever know if sacredness came to me, if I could recognize it and see it? Would I run? Would I run fast? Would I stand still? Would I keep my eyes open, or will I close them shut? What will I do? Or does it have to approach me like a stranger in the streets? Or will it come to me like a dream, and all I have to do is lie there? Will it be a bright light that turns on suddenly in my head? Or is it a bunch of hormones rushing through my blood? And what happens when I pass away and no more hormones to depend on? Will sacredness come as spirit? The little goldfish asked. And as we walk from room to room, from building to building, from land to land, so too the little goldfish swims. From corner to corner, from face to face. And how such a very simple little device like a telescope or a microscope can break the barriers of sight 10,000 times in search of ourselves, in search of science. And yet all we find are just little things and big things. Like on a sandy beach, like in a mountain, or even in our heads. And as a little goldfish touches the glass and magnifies again 10,000 times, taking a deep breath, whether it be of water or whether it be of air, Taking a deep breath, a little goldfish, with a thought, with a feeling, asking oneself, is sacredness underneath the rock? Is it in a book? Is it on a television show or in a movie? Does sacredness belong only to history? Or is it outside my front door? Is sacredness in my pink dress or in my blue shirt? Is the sacredness my room itself? The little goldfish asked. Is it the light above? Is it the darkness below? Is it sacred to the west or is it to the east? The little goldfish asked. And yet sometimes all human beings, sometime in their life, they touch it, sometimes they see it, sometimes they feel it, sometimes. All human beings. And to have a will to decide whether to hold it, like putting a stone in your pocket, or to write it down in a book, or just wash it off and forget that it ever happened. I wonder what we do with it. And yet sacredness, what is it? What are the maps to find it? What do I have to pay? What price to pay for these maps? Do I have to cry? Do I have to suffer? Do I have to know a good joke? Do I have to work for an hour or two? What do I have to do? The little goldfish asked. Do I have to pass away to leave the goldfish in order to look back and see, to see the heavy water, to see the stones, to see the bubbles rise, to see what is above and to see what is below? Can I use my imagination before I pass away to see this? I wonder what eyes I will have to use in order to see this. The little goldfish asked. make it ne and yet, from a thought, from a feeling, from the moment we were conceived, the little goldfish, the little human, the little fly, the little rock, the little sand, the little planet, the glass, and all the water and all the air, all the moments, they're all sacred. There is no escape. No matter how high of a mountain you climb, no matter how depressed you get, no matter how many thoughts you kill, no matter how long you sleep, there's no escape. Little goldfish. No matter how many lives you live, no matter how many deaths you meet, no matter how long you stay angry, no matter how strong your hate, no matter how beauty your love is, no matter how small you may be, no matter how many suits you have, no matter how hungry you are, there's no escape. No matter how fast you eat, no matter how fast you talk, and no matter how fast you run, you're still in the same goldfish. You're still the same. In a big bowl, you are. For to open up one's eyes is to open up one's eyes in the womb of a mother, and then to open up one's eyes in the womb of a planet, and then to open up one's eyes in the womb of another life. You know, there's no escape. It is behind all foul words. It is behind all wonderful words. And if there's no escape, then what can I do? Take a deep breath and then let go. That's all you can do. So simple and yet so complex. So everyday and yet so mysterious. No big fancy words, no big experience, no big cry and no big laughter. Just take a deep breath and let go. And yet one And yet most will never know that until your last breath really leaves your lungs. And no more inhales to be taken. And yet how one's inner eye will slowly open up to a much bigger fishbowl. No meditation is required, no mantra is necessary, no suffering is required, no more higher IQ, no more mechanics. Just let go. For there is a difference between the strength and the will of a human being and the strength and the will of one's spirit inside. For the human being, don't ever give up. You fight for your freedom. You can fight for your time and do it well. Stand tall. Fight for your country. Fight for a better education. Fight for good teachers. Fight for a better life for your children. And yet the paradoxical of it all is the surrender of one's spirit to the exhale. For life already is. You cannot create it, you cannot make it. For in the spirit there is no past and there's no future. There is no history. There are no layers. There's no lack of hope and there's no hope. Then one will know, the wise person knows. You keep your muscles strong. You keep your focus very strong. You keep your intent strong. Be ready to act. And yet, the paradoxicalness of it all, be humble inside. Be soft and be kind. And be quiet. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Niti ha ha ha. Let go. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Nikititi, nikiti, ha, ha, ha. Let go. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Let go. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Let go. Life is not linear. We perceive life as linear. And yet we can walk in a very linear fashion. And yet we understand point A to point B. And yet we understand the constructions of thought, sophisticated and unsophisticated. And yet we know light travels in one direction. And yet we know the difference between peace and war. And yet we know when we are distressed and when we feel good. But mystics that really belong to the night, when there's no more light to use or to see that runs straight, that bounces off the walls and tables and doors, ceilings and other people's faces. We are forced to use another way to see inside. A light that is much softer, a light that is more real, a light that is kinder, a light that does not travel. Or to find really one's spirit, one's wisdom, to find what so many people seek. You will not find it along a straight path or a crooked path. You will not find it on the path headed up or headed down. You will not find it on the compass. You will not find it in your logic. You will not find it in your reasons. Sometimes you can recognize it in a song, and sometimes in an act. The paradox of life. As you inhale, you will find it in your exhale. And as you exhale, you will find it in your inhale. And as you cry, you will find it in your tears. And in your tears, you will find it in your laughter. And those who seek it in your work, you will find it in your rest. And those who seek it in rest, you will find it in work. And those who seek it in silence, you will find it in sound. And those who seek it in sound, you will find it in silence. And those who seek it in the good, you will find it in the bad. And those who seek it in the bad, you will find it in the good. And those who seek it in life, you will find it in death. And those who seek it in death, you will find it in life. I was born and then I am gone. I appear and now I disappear. I've understood and then I forgot. I forgot and then I remember. Life simply is. Let's take a break. Oh, Eva, we're going to wait. Eva, is your translator is not here yet. Well, we are waiting some questions. Personal questions about yourself, or why did you come here, or what you're doing, you know. Yeah. All right. So now we have we're on. Some questions. Any questions? Good. Are you getting any sound? Are you? Okay. Give me some simple questions. Therapist coming and going. I don't quite have the context where I was coming from with that.
You spoke of therapies, several therapies, new therapies coming
Mm-hmm.
and moving your way.
Okay.
And you found out that most therapies there is something missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can't quite get the feeling of the subject matter where I was coming from, because I have addressed that subject matter from many different directions, and I can't quite get it where I came from with that. But I will take off with something. We live in the year 2001. We live in the year 2001. We are living in the year 2001. We are living in the year 2001. For most people who are so busy living their lives, family is a 24-hour job. Most businesses, if you own a business, it's another 24-hour job. That's two 24-hour jobs. That's a 48-hour job that you're doing in 24 hours. And some people have not much to do, and yet they're still very, very, very busy. And we all have found out that a good friend is wonderful to talk to. We all have found out that to bounce off ideas and feelings and subject matters off other people, it can benefit. And it also can go into the opposite direction. It can be very harmful. And for most people, actually, it's really very confusing to do that. Let me put out a case in point. Back in Santa Cruz, this mother, she came for advice and gave her some advice, and we talked about some things. And 2 weeks later, she comes back, and the advice is blown out of the water. There's no sign of the advice or how to take a look at this particular subject matter. And after diving into what had happened the last 2 weeks, she must have had talked to 24 other people about the same thing and got 2 different perspectives. And so by the time after 2 weeks and getting advice from 24 people, her mind has now been dissected 24 slices. And now this mind has to work and digest this information under 24 different categories. And that's very much actually like taking a drug, a psychedelic drug, or any kind of a drug that alters the mind. When anybody takes in a gossip, talks to another human being, takes some form of a stimulant that alters one's perception, the mind has to deal with it. The mind has to process this new information, this new stimulation from the drug or from the other person giving this information. Okay. Now again, this is the year 2001. Okay. Now you're not knowing where I'm coming from, but leave it there, 2001. Now let's go back to the subject matter. So here now this mind has been dissected many more times than the original consulting advice. Every time you go to someone, it's a drug, actually. Because you are receiving not only the emotional factor, but the mental factor of another human being. You're eating it. Your eyes are eating this other human being, in essence. Receiving a person. But it's eating information. It's taking it in. Your eyes are seeing it. Anything outside the phenomenon of self, anything outside yourself, is an external environment. We have our own thoughts, our own dreams, our own internal light that we learn to deal with. And it's the best way to describe what this internal light is like is the first 9 months of being in a womb of a mother. That infant is very awake inside and very content with their environment inside. And that little infant is not 9 months, it's 90 years to that infant. It's a long, long time. That infant has got used to actually internalizing and being internal because it woke up internal. It was conceived internal and lived internal. And then the little goldfish, the bowl, expanded. Once it woke up within that womb, the goldfish bowl is now the belly, the skin. Once that human being leaves the womb, the goldfish bowl expands at a dramatic rate, 100 million times. Now the bowl has externalized itself into the atmosphere. And there's a lot of new things involved. Other human beings, other creatures. And being that other creatures have also became from an internalized structure, you could say. And they are internalized inside. We are inside. We're not outside. You can't dream my dreams. I dream my dreams. You cannot eat for me. I cannot eat for you. I can't really think for you. No one can think for me but me. So we're all internalized creatures inside. And when you go talk to another human being, you are actually receiving bits of feelings, information, light, sensations from this internalized human being that's standing in front of you. So you're receiving all this inside, going in through your eyes and your senses. So energetically, you are being radiated by a very powerful plutonium, which is another human being. That human being is radiating onto you, therefore affecting you, mutating you. Everybody's mutating everybody else to some degree. And when you go get advice with the same question to 24 different people, you're getting radiated 24 different ways. Your mind has to process that. Our body and minds are designed to process at night, to give in the whole day so we can process itself. So we have, let's say, we wake up refreshed and not tired. But this lady found herself waking up tired every morning and tired all day and confused even more by the morning. Why? This is the year 2001. So, in Santa Cruz, California, which there's a little more sunshine and people are just as friendly as they are here. And the advice is just as good as it is over there. And people are working here as they are over there. Nothing unusual, pretty much the same clothes, pretty much, and the same goods in all the stores. This is the year 2001. So now that the mind cannot catch up with the processing of not just dissecting, but having to filter out and categorize and put together these 20 different forms of radiation. And then the person comes back to me and wondering why things have not worked. And it seems that it's really quite common that people, when they meet someone who has a little ear, just a little bent it just a little bit, people naturally start to talk or share the advice. And if you pay attention, it's almost like the ears are really starting to, what do you got? You got something to tell me. You got something to say. But we all actually see it. in the expressions, energetically, in how they stand and how they walk, and we can tell what's behind the curtain, pretty much. And this is all subconsciously done, actually. We're all very, very experts at it. So from a subconscious point of view, that's where most of the communication is really taking place. And that's what really puts us into harm's way or puts us into a situation that we meet other people. So in the year 2001, she comes back to the original office with the original question, wondering why things have not worked out inside her mind, inside her feelings. To talk to another human being. Have you ever asked yourself, who in the world am I talking to? Is this person sane? Is this person so busy inside their head, their eyes are open and looking at me, but there's nobody home? They're back in their office. They're back in bed. Is this person filled full of rage, and yet they're smiling? Who in the world am I talking to in the first place? And who am I going to share and give this information to? And the information that is going to come out of this person's mouth, is it going to make me more confused? Is it? Do I have the discretion, first of all? Do I really have any discretion about what I hear? Is it good? Is it bad? It sounds good. Am I too naive, actually? And this, only you can do. First, you have to discover your naivety inside. And do you have discretion about the person that you're standing in front of, that you're about to receive advice from? Know yourself. Know yourself before you get advice. Know yourself before you ask. So if your naivety is so strong, and you don't have discretion about who has wisdom and who doesn't, when you know yourself, then you know that you can't tell the difference of what is good, clear information and advice and what is not. Then all you can do is say, I'm gambling. That's all I'm doing is gambling by taking in this information. All I can do is wait and see what happens. But I will know if it's good advice or not in time. But like so many people, they ask time and time and time and time again the same question. And they don't give their minds time to process it like the night does for our lives. And then the mind has to process 24 different ways. We don't have enough time during the day to do that, actually. Most of us would love to stretch time. And like if we take one drug and then add another drug and add another drug and add another drug on top of that, constantly getting radiated by these drugs, no wonder we become schizophrenic. No wonder we have multiple personalities. No wonder we can say, I wonder why I'm mad and why I'm confused, and now I'm very, very intelligent, and now I am not. We haven't given ourselves and time in the year 2001. We haven't really, let's say, slowed down ourselves enough. Maybe our automobiles are going a little too fast and we think that our thinking has to go as fast to match up, to meet up with it, to keep up with it. We know that other people mature a lot quicker. We know that those that don't. Know yourself. If you find that your mind moves a lot slower than most, be careful what you ask and how many times you ask of the same question. And it took almost 3 years to get this lady to stop asking other people the same question. A good 3 years. Now there's more sleep, deeper sleep, more restful sleep, more clarity in the eyes, less confusion in the eyes, less thoughts. Letting the body, you say, be more in its natural state. There's many ways to push ourselves to the point that there's so much stress. We have little mini breakdowns. So much stress that we find our personality split. And then we go out and seek peace, seek understanding. In the year 2001, we got 3 or 4 personalities that we've gotten so used to, so accustomed to, that we have 4 pillows on our bed. And we still wake up with the 4 heads and somehow adapted quite well. So when it comes to a counselor, when it comes to privacy, when it comes to asking one good question that has to do with your personal life, because your personal life is valuable. And basically, life is not really having answers. That's not really what it's all about at all. For without questions, what will happen to most human beings? They will bore themselves to death. Just sit on a log, sit on a sofa, nothing more to think about, no more curiosity, nothing to stimulate them, no more wood. To keep your fire going, just let it burn out. This is the year 2001. Don't think that life has always been like this, how you were raised. This is a rare, rare time to have so many wonderful things on your streets and in your shops. If you could see and look through the eyes of a human being that is 90 or 100 years old, and seeing how much this world has changed in 100 years, and the thinking, the philosophies of life, you would not take your life for granted anymore. And to keep up with a very fast pace, with thousands of magazines being published every day, thousands of books everywhere, thousands of newspapers. The world is shrinking, and yet it is actually growing at a very fast rate. This is the year 2001. There were no therapists back then 100 years ago. What did the mothers and fathers, who did they have to go to? They had to go to grandmas, to their grandmas and grandpas, to their aunts and uncles, or to a good friend. There was no science of the mind. They were actually more innocent, more real, and more sincere, actually, than they are today. For the common sense has literally translated itself from good old-fashioned common sense to a psychological theory that purely lives in the mind. Just trying to get clever with thoughts and ideas, when somehow we have literally missed the point. For life is really basically, and always will be, very hard work. And it's not so easy, too. The theories of the workings of the mind have helped a tremendous amount. And yet, in 300 years from now, these theories are going to be infantile. And humanity is going to look into the mirror and see a very different perspective, completely different philosophies than they are today in the year 2001. But whether it is 1,000 years into the future or 10,000, humanity will always fall back on their face eventually and see that it's good old-fashioned common sense is the best advice of all. To know yourself. It is we that has complicated the game of thought. It is we who have complicated the game of the psychological aspects, not just of the inner mind, of the subconscious, but of the conscious mind. And yet, is a tear psychological? Is a laughter psychological? Is a touch psychological? Is a kiss psychological? Is my child a theory? Is my child a philosophy? Is my wife a theory? Is my wife a philosophy? So be very careful and be very, very, very aware. This is the year 2001. If you are in your 20s and 30s and 40s, you are influenced not the same way, with a lot less common sense than those who are in their 70s and 80s and 90s. Life is very, very different. For you cannot have helped to be born in such a time that you are in your 20s and 30s and 40s and living in the year 2001. That's your fault. But you see, even though our clothes are a little more, let's say, scientific, a little more well-designed, there isn't another addition of your DNA. You don't have any more DNAs than the people of tens of thousands of years ago. The hair still grays. People still hurt. People still want to be loved and touched. There's really no difference. In essence, to be genuine as much as possible. So in the year 2001, one day and 500 years from now, we're going to look very, very ignorant of how we conducted ourselves if society continues to advance. And no matter how fast our automobiles travel, no matter how sophisticated the new aluminum planes travel through the air, no matter how fast the bullet trains will travel, you still have to go to the toilet. Sometimes you still cry very quietly inside when nobody notices. And we all love to be liked and touched and loved. So do not be fooled by the year 2001. Humanity is as old as time. And don't let yourself think so young. So when you go to a therapist, you work it out. You question just with that one person as best as possible. And time is really your best friend. And time will tell you about the advice, but you have to stay with that one advice until it has really shown its face. And don't let your mouth be so easily opened. For your life and your advice is very important. For I wonder what happens in my last breath. What is the advice going to be? For at that major crossroad, it is a major crossroad. It will put you on a pin. It will put you on a point. It will put you on the peak of a mountain. It will put you on a cloud. That will send you into a direction that once you are conceived, And that process of conception has taken place, and you start to receive cells that have divided themselves into billions and billions of times. You are literally locked into your life. In the year 2001, and what brought you to this point, sitting in this chair? 1901, where were you? You must ask yourself. And what were the philosophies then? In the year 1801, where were you? You were somewhere, in some time and in some place. Where were you? For in the year 2101, where are you going to be? For you'll always find yourself in some time and in some place. And what are the philosophies going to be then? Philosophies are only philosophies. Concepts and ideas are only concepts and ideas. But a wisdom of all the ages, it never ceases, it never stops. It never changes one word or one idea or one picture. For 2001 is only another year, another day, and another moment. For an eternity within the mind, eternity within the heart, seek. Where a philosophy cannot change you, cannot bend you, where a religion cannot bend you or change you. For you are your bones, very old and very young. No darkness can take away. No hurt and pain can bend you. A wisdom that you cannot find in books, but sometimes you can hear it in a song. Sometimes you can see it in an act in front of you. And sometimes you can feel it running through your blood. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Let go. Take a deep breath. Hold it. To feel the pressure. To feel the pressure. Feel it. Let go. Take a deep breath, hold it, feel the pressure building. What can philosophies do with this? What can theories do with this? The pressure builds very quietly, strongly inside. Let go. Take a deep breath. Ikikite, ha, ha, ha. Let go. Wisdom does not run in a straight line. And sometimes it's wonderful to go from point A to point B. How reassuring it is to know that you know something. How reassuring it is to have a good answer. How reassuring it is to arrive after the long, long journey. And yet, realistically, we live on a planet that is round. And no matter how many miles, how many kilometers you traveled, it is still a round planet. Still round. Where have you really gone to? Goldfish in a goldfish bowl. For I have lived so many years and now I'm gone. I have seen so many faces and now what face do I see? I have heard so many sounds, and what have I done with it? I have taken so many pictures with these eyes, and what have I done with the photographs? I have touched so many people's hands, and what have I done with it all? I have read so many words. Am I really any smarter? Take a deep breath. Let go. Hi. Take a deep breath. Hi. Let go. Being depressed, being down, being unhappy, being sad, being disappointed, being hurt. Very funny thing how one cannot stay down for too long. Even though gravity is holding us down as best as possible, somehow a new sunrise, a new moonrise, somehow a telephone call, somehow a letter, somehow with just a little shift of the light, somehow it was putting on this dress or putting on these shoes, brought me up, brought me up, brought me out. It's over. The heaviness, the darkness, it's over. up, down, 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 up, up, down, up, 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 down, 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 up, 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 down, down, down. This is it for sure. Down, down, up, 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 down, down. The paradoxes of life. Be careful when you go up and be careful when you go down. Be careful when you arise and be careful when you can no longer get up. Be careful when you don't want to work anymore. Be careful when you work too much. Be careful when you don't drink enough, and be careful when you drink too much. Be careful when you don't say enough, and be careful when you speak too much. Be careful when you eat too little, and be careful when you eat too much. Take a deep breath. Feel the pressure building up in the year 2001. Somehow the pressure is up into your neck, up into your head. Let go. Take a deep breath. I wonder if there are words or pictures in pressure itself, but how easily it exposes what's inside. Let go. Without pressure, we don't learn. Without pressure, it's really hard to be accomplished. A fine line of pressure, a fine line of the imagination. It is. But the pressure eventually has to let go. The capacity only has so much. Take a deep breath. The pressure of your whole life now, putting pressure in all your memories, putting pressure in your nervous system, putting pressure in all your experiences, speaking to all of them, all thoughts, all pictures, the pressure speaks to. Let go. How easy it is to contact the year 3622 BC and the year 2001. Just with a little pressure. Human beings have not changed at all. Let's take a break. No, I gotta stand. It's too high. What's of interest? What would you interest? What about major questions in your life? Any major questions that you have in your life? Any conflicts with this or that, or this person, or you, or structure of the mind? Is anybody bothering you? Is
How we can more wake up to aufnehmen the higher energy.
how can we draw in the higher energies? First of all, be very, very good low energy. First of all, really, it's the your question, how to draw in, some circles will say the higher self, how to draw in the spirit, how to awaken to the spirit. And it's a very normal way to ask and to think to do that, but for most people, it's not the right way to look at it. To know yourself. When a person knows themselves and they know that they have, call it low consciousness, right? They are not a good person sometimes. They find themselves lazy, they find themselves like this, and they know themselves very, very well. They know the lower self, which is what they consider themselves, with a great deal of as much honesty as possible. It is these people that you could say they're walking underneath a tree and there's a break in one of the branches, or there's a call from the wild, or they get bumped by another human being on the shoulder, or an egg falls off the tree and lands on the top of their head, or all of a sudden they trip. And somehow the act, the very typical, normal act, somehow put them in another synchronicity of time and space. And because this person started with a great deal of honesty and didn't pretend to be someone higher than, didn't pretend to seek the higher because why, I know who I am, but I know who I am. It is the honesty of oneself that literally creates the doors of silence, that literally manifests the doors of silence to open up silence itself, which is just not silence, but the revealer of creation itself. And it is not necessarily the higher self, you could say, that comes in. But let's say I finally got to take a very good shower. I finally got to clean up my veils, wash my veils. I finally, let's say, released my ignorance. There is this typical tendency for human beings to want to see holiness has to be at least 2,000 miles away from my country. There is a tendency for human beings that holiness has to be at least, maybe 30, 40 miles above my head, but not down here, not in my neighborhood. There is this tendency that, again, grass is greener, someplace else. And your question is the question of all seekers. Actually, it really comes from a very genuine point of view to see not just through the eyes of a human being, but basically to ask life to teach me to see through the eyes of life. But a human being has to come to terms with their eyes first. and what they see and what they only can't see. That is the most important, because it is the honesty, the reality that makes it possible for realities outside your own norm to come into existence, to come into your life. So again, it brings us right back to good old, simple common sense. Common sense. And not some great theory, and not some this or not some that. And not more intelligence won't do it either. And not a high IQ will do it either. It is something that just really rests in all human beings' heart. Who is walking through that door? Who walked in? Is what makes all the difference in the world. Not the socks or the pants or the dresses or what's in your purse. And it's not really basically what is on your face, because we have become so sophisticated with our intelligence, we can smile and yet still hate inside. We can make love and then kill in the next 2 or 3 hours. We found how human beings are very versatile human beings inside. And this question also leads up to a situation that there's a natural phenomenon, that it is the phenomenon of the self. And ever since existence as we know it, since we somehow became somewhat aware of ourselves, we have been living inside, here, in here. And since we don't perceive from somebody else's eyes or around the corner of a wall, but the closest we can is through a photograph or through a painting or through someone else's words in a magazine or a book or through a movie, Hollywood movie. We can see through somebody else's eyes. And we have touched and gained some commonality with all these other perspectives. But still, that brings us right back down to home, the phenomenon of the self. We're literally locked in, you could say, by skin and bone, by flesh, locked into our own reality. And if we pay attention to this and watch how we have grown up and were raised and perceived life very much like most people in most neighborhoods, there is an everyday occurrence like dust eventually settling on everything. No matter how many times you wipe it during the day, dust will eventually settle. It starts immediately. And this is actually the conditioning of all human beings. Complacency, ordinariness starts to settle immediately. It has no mercy, it has no patience, it does not wait. It acts immediately. And if one starts to pay attention to the ordinariness, complacency, to the conditioning, not just of a human being, but how everything is, as existence as we know it, it's kind of like a fog that immediately comes back into one's life. The minute you brush it away, the minute the sun comes in and gives you clear sight, the fog seeps back in, which is complacency. Ordinariness. And this conditioning has a great deal, let's say, it has a good hold on all creatures and all human beings, and anything that is of a sentient nature. People have studied the conditioning. We start to study the conditioning of dogs, animals, and creatures, and we all find out that there is, all creatures inherent this a kind of conditioning. And as the conditioning starts to be understood and start to show its face, we begin to realize that the conditioning has wrapped itself around our thoughts and our feelings and our lives a lot more than one really thinks of. And actually, as we start to study the DNA and break down the DNA and study the chromosomes and all the proteins that are associated with the creation of all creatures, we find that we are conditioned far deeper than what we have ever imagined. And we're going to find out more and more. It's going to be more and more shocking. Actually, it will take away one's thought of one's free will more and more as a reality of DNA and proteins and how it really makes us think, makes us smell, makes us go this way, makes us want this, makes us think like that or think like this. It's all pretty well programmed. And this brings us down to a very fine line between free will and conditioning. And this also brings in another subject matter of the mind, which is a very elusive thing, and we know it's not in the brain, but somehow it seems to be, or seems to appear, it should be somewhere in the brain, but there's a lot more to it. And in some case, that as one starts to, somewhere in the nighttime, some time when the sun has gone down, and there is a contemplation, and there's a silence, there's a feeling where the stillness is starting to vibrate and to speak. And this stillness eventually can turn itself into and seem like an earthquake, a very small earthquake. And actually, it is nothing more than the reality of one's spirit touching the outer boundaries and the framework of these proteins and DNA. And somehow the identity of you, the identity of what you think you are, somehow breaking free of all these various molecules, of all these various codes that has literally made up every cell of the human body. It is very much like a person passing away, or a person lying down on your pillow and going into your dreams. And somehow there's not even gravity sometimes, doesn't seem to be present because you can fly. Somehow the logic is different, the reasons are different. Somehow even the light is different. And when these little mini earthquakes are taking place sometime in the night, and it's kind of like a revelation, it's kind of like a spiritual experience, which it is. For the personality, it's very much like a towel painted of various colors, and somehow the towel is being shaken off its clothesline and shaken. And somehow the towel is thrown into the wind because it's a very strong wind, the spirit is. And now blown through the winds. And somehow being tossed and turned about. And with a few strikes of lightning to show the primordial nature is right at your side. And somehow the fire of this lightning striking the towel, striking you. For how can this vast amount of light, and it's not even energy, for it's very different. For how can this vast amount of light be withstood, just being a little towel, a personality that can bend in under many different colors or flags, that can walk or crawl, can carry a gun, can paint, can run, can drink water, can fall off trees, can drive cars, can glide with very strong and high wings. And all this taking place within a moment inside one's mind. It is during these times that pictures of the higher self, you could say, and the lower self will show itself. Somehow embodied in body, and yet somehow embodied in the spirit. And somehow the light is somewhat the same, and yet it is not. And then once is shaken free of the fabric of skin and bone, shaken free of bone and brain matter, and somehow feel, sense, and know of what is on cause. And yet the wind blowing at your back, blowing at your face, blowing in from the left and blowing in from the right, blowing in from above and blowing in from below, from all directions. How can it be so? A wheel that just does not go straight ahead but goes in all directions simultaneously. A word that just does not emanate from the throat but emanates from all directions. A light that has no source, and a light that emanates from all directions. And yet the Tao is being tossed about in the wind somewhere in some atmosphere. Many colors that you have designed of yourself. Images that you have built of your own self. Your wants and your desires, your dreams. The hopes that you have let go. The dreams that you have not yet dreamt. And yet somehow you know that you are safe. Yet somehow you know you are protected. Yet somehow you know you are loved. For the wind is your earth. The emptiness is your security. The lightning is your spirit. Somehow finding yourself in your bed, somehow finding yourself embedded in your body, somehow wondering if it was just a dream, was it a vision, where was I, what happened? In some sense, you could say you were free for a short time. Outside the context of mind, outside the context of being embodied. But somehow now you feel the heaviness, not just the gravity being pulling down on your bones. Somehow your feet makes more sense. It's like hands that have turned themselves into feet. So one is able to walk upright. Somehow you can sense a distance between your feet and your hips, and between the hips and your shoulders. Billions and billions and billions of kilometers between. Somehow life and time has compressed itself. And you, embodied, compressed, blood vessels, tissues, muscles and tendons. I can feel the weight of it all. And somehow one now can understand what it is to take a deep breath and the beauty of letting it go. You could say the beauty of what it is to be alive. Or you see, once one passes away, you no longer have to take a deep breath. You no longer have to let it go. For whatever is the higher self, you will be. Whatever is the spirit, you will be. And you don't even have to wish it so. And you can be spirit all you want. But when the beauty of the Tao is embedded in a body, and you find yourself with little fingers and little toes, you find yourself with a nose that always somehow points in one direction, and generally you follow it. Most of the time we don't walk backwards. Most of the time. You find what a beauty it is to be a human being. The lower self, you could say. For the birds fly, let them fly. I am a human being, I will walk. The clouds, let them glide, for I am glad I walk. How can a human being who's so busy in their head, where the conditioning has got them wrapped around their throat, and always looking, wanting to be that person or this person, wanting to always think about this land or that land, always dreaming about this or dreaming about that, or how easy it is to be killed in a car accident, how easy it is to die in one's sleep, how fragile human beings are to get ill. And if one has not woken up into one's own environment, how can you wake up in the next? If one is not present in one living day, how can you be present in the next day? If one is not genuine with one given day, how can you be genuine with the next if there's no conditioning to back you up? But this is when conditioning starts to become a friend and not a foe, to change the conditioning. Use your eyes to see all that you can see of this earth before you have no more eyes. And when the beauty to see is every day, and when you pass away, you will still have that conditioning inside your heart to see. If you cannot learn to really be present on this planet, how can you learn to be present in the next? If you're dreaming 90% of the day, most likely you will dream 90% tomorrow. Our tailbone is almost gone, not quite. This holiday for all of us is almost gone. For this is nothing but an adventure, a holiday to be taken. And sometimes the holiday is not so nice to so many. But one day, I do tell you, it's as valuable as any 10 billion days. For one moment here is worth 10 billion moments anywhere. For those who can never really be a human being, they can never really be in spirit either. The dreamers embodied in body, and the dreamers who are also in spirit, for there are many. There's no escape. You are who you are. You dream here, you will dream above. You cannot find your feet here, you will not find your feet above. You cannot find love here, you will not find a love above. You hate here, you will find yourself confused above. You are who you are. The beauty of having the tailbone still somewhat visible. Or we can feel our hunger. We can feel separation, feel loneliness. We can sense and know ignorance and intelligence. We can have good answers and have no answers. For you see, we are here. It's a wonderful place to be tempered. Tempering the steel, tempering our spirits. For every day, you could say, is like an opportunity to be more resilient, to be more kind, to have more wisdom. And what a wonderful place to do it. We have many, many colors to choose from. Some days it's a day of red, some days are days of blues and yellows. Some days are days of being angry and confused. And we can paint this towel of us, this personality. Then it comes time to wash it and throw it in the wash. For passing away is nothing but a washing machine. And then one wonders how all the children come out so wonderful, the babies. So innocent, so clean and fresh. For it's a beautiful, beautiful washing machine with very, very good recycled water. So artists, so painters, you find your medium, you find your brushes, you find your pens, and you paint. And sometimes you need to be very firm, and sometimes you need to bend. For you are I know you are not a bird. I know that. I see no feathers hiding behind. You are no clouds, that I know. And you are no sun in the sky, that I know. You may not like it, but you are a human being. Learn to be a good human being first. And when every cell knows you and you know every cell, and the gratefulness of your bones, then you have come to do what you have come to do. Temper your spirits by crying, by laughing, by getting tired. Temper your spirits by getting disappointed, getting good answers. Temper your spirits by being wrong and being lost. Temper your spirits by reading books and watching movies. Temper your spirits by singing if you can. Temper your spirits by being quiet and making lots of sound. Temper your spirits by working hard and brushing your hair. There comes a pinnacle, there comes a point, there comes a time, there comes a crossroad. When the nature of the body and the nature of your own spirit somehow the round ball fits in the round peg. Something connects, something finally connects. And then one understands what is above, so is below. And what is below is above. I am the bird. I am the cloud. I am the wind. I'm a human being with a very small tail. The universe is already walking on the ground. No matter how far you see with your telescopes, no matter how close you see with your microscopes, no matter how clever you are with your mind, the universe already walks. So in some sense, there's nowhere to go. In some sense, life already is. The higher self and the lower self already is. Peace is not above, Peace is not in the north. Peace is not below. Peace is in one's heart. No war, no banging your drums, no foot stomping, no being wrong, no bad day, and no sin can never take that away. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Let go. Take a deep breath. Let go. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Let go. Open up your eyes. better question than how to bring the higher self in. It's almost, how did I come about? How did I get alive, so to speak? How did I get conceived? That's a big one. That's a very big one. In the year 2001, or the year 10,042, how did it happen? And when we understand the evolution of it, and we can see there's a progression there. But you put that aside, you put that away, the progression of evolution. Mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, and then their mothers and fathers from one generation to the next, and you just, okay, put that aside. How did I get to be? And I find myself in a year we call 2001. How did that happen? And we know realistically that it will go. This will go. And then whatever year that is. And I could ask the same question. And basically, human beings will never really know how they got to be where they got to be. Even though you found a husband or wife and you had your kids and you found your house and your property, but still, how did you get to be? And running from morning till night, and somehow it all works. Somehow history can be written down in books. There can be some sense and some reasons. Will I be just a person in a photograph someone will be looking at 100 years from now? Probably. Wondering who that person was and lived a whole lifetime too. And where? And when a person asks this question, you will find that you hit your ceiling. That thought will eventually hit your ceiling. You can only go so far. And the rest is just speculation and imagination. That's all it is. And leave speculation to speculation and leave imagination to imagination and don't gamble with it. And that brings us right back to the honesty of what is. If all you see are just trees and mountains and rivers, other people and buildings and walls, and all you see are glass and many different kinds of automobiles, and all you see are the different shoes and the different customs of dresses and shirts that you have, then learn to see that very well. If all you know is just what you know, and the rest is just speculation and mystery, then know it very well, what you know, and what are the mysteries you know. Know what you know, and know it well. What you can see it well. And what you cannot see, know what you cannot see. Don't play games with your mind. Do not speculate. Do not fantasize. There is something about reality is that it's very, very harsh. And when we hide from cruelty, what takes place? When we hide from the animal that human beings can be, when we hide from our own cruelty inside, and when we hide from our own twisted thoughts, then speculation and fantasy becomes our life, becomes our eyes. But when the honesty between thought, sight, brain tissue, and nervous system is taking place, and there's no fantasy, no speculation, no imagination, even though that you wish to see what is above, you wish to see what is called the invisible, and somehow you strengthen your nervous system, you strengthen the colors that you have drawn on your towel, your personality, and yet always hold the wish inside your heart. We can walk to a mountain, we can walk into another room, we can walk to another country, we can walk up to another person, but you cannot walk to the Spirit. Or the Spirit has to come to you. So if you have still good legs to walk, use them well and walk as much as you can. When a human being has walked enough, and they have the courage that when the Spirit comes, they have the courage to keep the eye, the inner eye open and not to let it shut. It is the person, the Spirit inside, that holds up the towel, the personality, and offers up the personality. I offer up my imagination, I offer up my colors. I offer up my resilience and my hardness. I offer up my stories and my pictures. I offer up my sweat in the towels. I offer up the burnt spots and the dirty spots. I offer up the parts that are clean. Then you lose your tailbone. Take a deep breath. Let go. Take a deep breath. Let go. And he has those that are passing away and those that are being born, conceived. Those that inhale and those that are exhaling. The bus stop, a train station, an airport, this is one big airport. And everyone has their ticket. Where's your ticket going to? Take a deep breath. Feel the pressure. Feel the pressure. Let go. Take a deep breath. Let go. Open up your eyes. Tomorrow we're going to do fire dance. Couldn't do it today, but tomorrow. Any some questions? I'm going to go for a break.